your answers underway with the guests today. Now, in Uganda today, SMEs, or small medium enterprises, or MSMEs, including the micro enterprises as well, contribute about 90% to the gross domestic product. I'm looking at especially the manufacturing output here in Uganda. Most of the businesses that are manufacturing are actually small and medium enterprises, and they do employ about over 2.5 million Ugandans currently, and this is minus the farm sector. That's the non-farm sector employment, and so they do contribute a lot to what defines Uganda's business. And today we are talking about the recovery of the SMEs from, of course, first of all, the COVID-19 pandemic, which ravaged the world for over 2 years, then also from the current global economic shocks, especially including global inflation, the economic disruptions, supply chain disruptions, name it, that are currently putting a very big barrier between us and the dream of where we want to see the small and medium enterprises. And that's roughly what we are going to be looking at. But I'm not alone on set. I have very special guests here with me. And I'll start with Dr. Ahaviona Faith, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Business Administration at Cavendish University. A very good academician, and of course we're going to have that academic touch. And then on the other hand, I do have Mr. Julius Kapwepwe, who is the Director of Programs at the Uganda Debt Network. He also coordinates the East African Budget Network, and that is from Uganda's side. And so a very unique gentleman there when it comes to talking about debt and also talking about different financial instruments here in Uganda that do influence our economic growth. You're most welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
I'll start with you, Dr. Faith. I've just given you a very rough introduction. Maybe if you can introduce to the viewers what you are and what you do.
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, viewers and listeners. It's another opportunity for me to be on Smart 24 TV, and it's always an opportunity for me to be here. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. As you have heard, my name is Faith, and I currently head the Faculty of Business and Administration, where we have vast number of courses in management, in finance, in project management, in human resource at Cavendish University, where we believe that we are there to offer only what is excellent. So as we sit on this topic this evening, I'm looking forward to us taking this dialogue to another level where we can start to open up the population into thinking about how can we actually address these issues that are surrounding resiliency challenges among SMEs. As you put it, knowing that SMEs are employing over 2.5 million Ugandans, they are contributing 90% of the private sector, which is a huge contribution. So if nothing is actually thought in that direction, then we are not just headed for doom, but recession will be our portion. So I look forward to this discussion this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor, and you're most welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Julius Kapwepwe, tell us about the Uganda Debt Network and what exactly you do.
Well, I will need to do that for the entire evening, so I'll make a quick snapshot of who we are at the Uganda Debt Network. We are a national level policy advocacy organization that works to mobilizing citizens to participate in prudent acquisition, management, and accountability of public resources in Uganda. So that means we're interested in, does mwananchi know why he or she pays tax? Do we see these avenues where we could increase our public sector resources? But that's not enough. Article 17 of the 1995 Constitution of Republic of Uganda, as amended, says, amongst other things, that you have you are duty bound to pay tax. But also you have an obligation to follow where your money has gone. So the accountability bit, the expected results out of our aggregated contribution as Ugandans, you and I, the viewers, and many other people, other sources are where governments all over the world get money, including foreign money, into our coffers, into our hands, into our responsibility, and into desired outputs in terms of, say, physical quantities, but also outcomes in terms of if you have as an output 40 classrooms for a primary school in Katikekire, in Karamoja, thank you very much. But how many children at the end of the day do we see coming out, getting, for instance, jobs or contributing in any way, say through the small and medium enterprises, as an example, to make them robust, effective, to be able to deliver Uganda to the next level that we want.
Thank you so much. And I'll still start with you, Mr. Julius. Recently, and this is not probably directed to the topic, but in about 2 weeks ago, the Deputy Governor to the Bank of Uganda, Dr. Michael Atinji Ego, appeared before Parliament and said that our debt had reached half the GDP, meaning we are at a 50% debt to GDP ratio, at currently a figure speculated to be at 80 trillion Ugandan shillings, or even more. And he still continued to say that this debt is sustainable. Something that really left many Ugandans not satisfied with his comments. And does the debt situation in Uganda bother you a little bit?
As some of us, as analysts, as development practitioners, as citizens of this country, we've shifted the debate away from is it 50%, is it what are you racing to get the 50% for? Is it a pass mark?
It's the ceiling for East African
of Cavendish University that unless you have 50% in the paper, you want to make it to the next level. Therefore, everyone rushing to the 50%. That's not the bigger point. The bigger point is if you have gotten this money, our own generated resources, tax and non-tax revenues, in other words, ideally then you notice that in your expected financing you have a gap. Because why do nations borrow? Why do individuals borrow? Why do companies borrow? It is for purposes of deficit finance. It is for purposes of plugging that gap. They have a desire but have only so little in terms of money, so they go elsewhere to a neighbor for top up. So the point is, thank you very much for picking money from wherever. Is it giving us or contributing to the National Development Plan pathway that we have created for ourselves as a country? Debt has increased, but so has our GDP. So is that a paradox, or we think it is a right direction we should be looking at? If I give you an example, if you looked at financial year 2021, 2020-21, that time, our GDP in terms of American dollars, of course equivalent of shillings, was about 36 billion dollars. In 2026, financial year 25-26, we expect that GDP to have grown to excess of $60 billion. So you have borrowed. You've borrowed for let me give an example of Tirinyi, Parisa, road, and back to Bali, the other side, from Badea, a foreign lending institution. Do we see improved production and productivity in that part of the country, in the Ugweri, in the Bukit area? If the answer is yes, the challenge then is not debt. Do you have capacity to use my money but keep paying me back, even though I may be giving you more money? So that's the bottom line. So to the extent that at times there has been a short-circuiting of that, is when we raise eyebrows and say, oh, look, at Parliament or at Bank of Uganda or wherever, at the International Monetary Fund country office, and even Washington, and there are issues here. we don't think we should continue borrowing in this direction. We think that otherwise the Japans of this world, America is the highest indebted country in the world, but it also has arguably the biggest GDP. So the challenge is not, the other bit we should also be looking at is, in spite of the increasing debt situation, how do we borrow to trade ourselves out of borrowing? In other words, that you have built the 10 oil roads, including money that has come from China to build that, but that with your expected revenues, opportunities, jobs, industrial parks, the materials you are going to be using being purchased locally. Some of them, of course, foreign. If you are talking about trucks, trucks you've seen them, those are not manufactured here. But to the extent that the border person who goes to work at that place and the border tires are being manufactured in Uganda is a plus. And so we kind of milk that opportunity. And eventually you'll find that we no longer need to borrow for that road when time for repairs comes, because our oil tap is already open, and so are the revenues. We have the financial muscle. We can fund that ourselves plus something else. And lastly, I think for now, the other point about debt generally is to look at where do we have foregone opportunities that no wonder led us to borrowing out there. And I'll give maybe 1, 2, 3 examples. Hides and skins. Look at the opportunity that we have in this country. At 16 million cows that we have in this country, of course, it looks big, but it is cartoon if you compare yourself, say, with Ethiopia, which has 64 million cows, But even with the 16 million, where do our hides and skin go? After which we go to purchase those imported huge beard, belts, shoes, vikapu, bags. That opportunity, if we tap it, as government is already trying to do, if you looked at Kawum, in the case of that Wero area, that we pick our hides and skin from, let's say hypothetically, Karamoja area, which has one of the largest number of livestock, generally sheep and other, camels and other things. Pick that as raw hide and skin, bring it to Kawumu, therefore meaning you need to have invested in the technical capacity of our students with the skill. You see the additional empowerment, therefore, and do the turning of that leather and skin into the belt, into the shoe that is picked from Kaum by a transporting company. That's an additional job opportunity. That driver, that stand boy, the loaders are getting a lot of profit, and then we are able to make money. And lastly, maybe if we talked about, for instance, coffee. Germany, if you brought Germany here at Smart 24 TV showground in Court, and you have about 4 plants here, he or she may not easily tell that this is a coffee tree as opposed to this one, which is for tea. Germany, nonetheless, picks annually 27 trillion equivalent of shillings, while Uganda parts with a patry 26 billion. Can you imagine the irony? But we are the producers. We know how to grow the coffee. We know how to care for it. We know how to take it out for sun drying. We know how to, make remove the husks and that. So if we invested in that value chain, the value chain development of our commodities, that's why like the parish development model aspect and thinking of government comes in. Invest in value chain capacity, production and productivity capacity of the country. Don't let the opportunities go to foreigners. Lastly, if you invested in your Muko iron ore deposits in the Chijes area and the sections of that iron ore in the Nkore area, you'd be able to not only take care of the steel market requirements of our country, steel, the bars, for building, vehicles for building, putting up buildings, for the welding that you see for doors, and where our ladies and gentlemen are involved. That alone in terms of job generation, that alone in terms of consumption of our electricity, where we're investing in mini grids and a lot of hydros, the Isimbas, whose debt we have to pay back. You would quickly pay for Isimba, pay for Karuma, take your product to Democratic Republic of Congo, to the Great Lakes region market, because 3/4 of our steel consumed here is imported from China. Would take over that. You would continue to N'Djamena in Chad and Central African Republic, have a whole horizon of opportunities and bringing revenues into our country. So trading ourselves out of debt, looking at how do we deal with the debt sustainably, how do we have debt that generates and increases our GDP and increases money in your pocket and in my pocket, should be the discussion. Not they have acquired this one this time, the other one. How much has it delivered in terms of what an economist would call maximizing utility? Yes. Maximizing, when you eat the sugar cane, you munch it until you feel there is no more juice, yes, and then you let go. It's what we should be talking about.
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Julius. There, we're going to first take a quick breather, and when we return, we'll get Dr. Faith's opinion on Uganda's public debt situation, and then get into our discussion. Stay with us. You're watching Smart 24 TV, and we drive your business. We return shortly.